Super simple anatomy and physiology. Crazy Kraus here. Talking about chapter 11, my favorite, cardiovascular system. It is the heart of the body and contains the heart. Chapter 11 in Super Simple First Edition, and we're on page 141. The CBS is the body's transportation system, and that figure 11.1 on page 142 takes advantage of the A in RevCam, the 10 keys to learning, associating existing knowledge with new knowledge. We all understand a transportation system. It's got vehicles. It could be a car, could be a bicycle, could be a motorcycle, could be a city bus. And there's something that acts as an engine providing energy that moves that vehicle. And the vehicles run on highways or in tunnels. So in the cardiovascular system, the vehicles are the blood. The engine providing energy, you guessed it, is the heart. And the highways are the vessels, arteries and veins. Important concept for you to spend a little time on. And at the bottom of that, you'll notice, although it's physiology more than anatomy, you'll notice that cardiac muscle is electric. And whenever you have electrical energy, current flow in the body, it's caused by ion flux, the rapid movement of electrically charged particles, ion flux. Know the term ion flux. And then we get into the structures you just have to know in the heart. You've got to know the heart inside out, anterior, posterior, internal aspects of the heart. So the anterior heart on page 144, starting with the superior and inferior vena cava, through the right auricle, the right atrium, the aorta, two branches of the ascending aorta. That's important. Two branches, the ascending aorta, left and right coronary arteries, gets tested all the time in introductory anatomy and physiology courses and maybe beyond, because it has such clinical importance, providing arterial blood rich in oxygen and nutrients to the myocardium, to the cardiac muscle, which of course is really energy intense because it beats 24/7, 365. Hopefully it's beaten all the time, right? Three branches of the arch of the aorta, brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, and left subclavian. With the left coronary artery, one of the two branches of the ascending aorta, it's important for students to know the circumflex artery, one branch of that left coronary, and the anterior interventricular, also known as the left anterior descending. Ligamentum arteriosum, that's an unusual structure. Research it. What is it? Be able to identify it. Something, just go out online and Google it. Ligamentum arteriosum. Ligamentum arteriosum. Struggle with how it's spelled. Ligamentum arteriosum. Posterior view, as well as the internal view, page 146. Posterior view, a lot of the same things that you see in the anterior view. One really important structure that you only see posteriorly is the coronary sinus. Coronary sinus. Coronary sinus, you need to know that drains all of the blood, venous blood, low in oxygen content from the myocardium, and it drains it into the right atrium. Internal structures. Boy, those are absolutely essential for you to know on page 147. Know them all. Understand the uniqueness of the pericardial sac, figure 11.5 on page 148, that it has a fibrous pericardium and it has a serous pericardium. That serous pericardium, serous membrane, lines closed body cavities, easy for me to say, closed body cavities, and it has a parietal layer and a visceral layer. So understand the pericardial sac, which protects the heart, but can also have clinical significance in something called a cardiac tamponade. Cardiac tamponade. And that may be mentioned in here, but I'm not sure. I know it is in the second edition, but maybe not in the first edition. Anyway, another thing that I would encourage you to go out and look up, cardiac tamponade. Cardiac tamponade. Again, I'm not going to spell it for you. You guys struggle to figure out the spelling. You're much more likely to retain it and drive it to long-term memory if you struggle to figure it out. And when you go out online and put stuff in the browsers, it usually corrects your spelling for you anyway. Then arteries and veins, figure 11.6 on page 149. It's important for you to know the major arteries, particularly those, well, I guess all of the arteries are deep, right? I was going to say deep arteries. The arteries are deep, and they are usually paralleled by deep veins. Like the axillary artery has an axillary vein, the brachial artery, a brachial vein that parallels it. Femoral artery has a femoral vein. Popliteal artery, posterior aspect of the knee, has a popliteal vein. So focus on learning the names, and yeah, there's just some rote memory involved here. Sorry about that, but it's the way it is, so deal with it. Put in the time. Got to do a lot of repetition. And then for most of those deep arteries, there is a paralleling vein, almost always by the same name. Common carotid arteries, the internal jugular vein parallels them. Abdominal aorta paralleled by the inferior vena cava. So the names are not always the same. But learn the arteries, and then if you understand anatomical regions, anatomical areas, brachial, axillary, femoral, popliteal, then the names of the arteries and the veins are logical, commonsensical, concept of common sense. There are a couple special superficial veins that you need to know on page 150, figure 11.7, cephalic vein, which is a large vein in the anterior aspect of the arm, right over the biceps brachii, as well as the great saphenous vein in the lower extremity. Great saphenous vein is frequently used as a vein that is harvested and then used during coronary artery bypass surgery. And the lymphatic system, part of the immune system, providing body defense, but also has a secondary function in absorbing interstitial fluid, the fluid that you find between cells, and draining that fluid back into the CVS through the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct, thoracic duct into the left subclavian vein, and the right lymphatic duct into the right subclavian vein. Had a brain freeze there for a minute. Right subclavian vein. Subclavian veins, the name tells you where they're located. Where are they located? Think about it. Figure it out. Okay, that's cardiovascular system from an anatomical standpoint. Krause out. See you next time.